Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. In 1860s America, a minister's family hears an unexplained noise from the woods during their wagon journey. Mistaking it for a divine presence, they worship until they realize it is more of a sinister nature. Yes, folks, this is our raw reaction review for Thine Ears Shall Bleed. Well, we are back with another religious horror film. Yes, those of you on the channel who have tuned in pretty regularly, or those of you who are just joining us, thank you, welcome. But we'll put it out front right now that we are not the biggest fans of religious horror. So, yeah, this one already has kind of some cards against it, I guess, from us. I mean, it's not something that we're necessarily opposed to ever trying, but they very rarely ever hit. Am I too far off by saying that, Luke?
I would say you're right on the money, actually. Going into religious horror, we don't necessarily discount it, but we do go in with probably more hesitation than I would say probably any horror subgenre, I would think, just because a lot of religious horror, at least most contemporary religious horror, let's say that, really follows a lot of similar beats. We've gotten the First Omen. We thought it was just kind of more so mid-tier. A lot of people were happy with it, just didn't really necessarily hit with us. Immaculate, I thought was good, but again, fell into the same beats. I thought it was a little bit better than the First Omen, but neither of those films, I would say, or at least at this time, are ending up on my top 10. So it's really hard for any religious horror to really kind of work its way in there, just because it is met with some hesitancy from us. So as soon as I realized this was some religious horror, I did go in kind of, again, hesitant about it. I didn't know really what this was going to expect. I will say I did watch your video on films we should be checking out, and I did see that little snippet that you did put in there, and I thought, this is rather compelling. If they do pull off this concept rather well, I could see me really liking this, and I gotta say, I think they did a really good job on this one.
Yeah, no, let's get right into it. Yes, I did have this on a little video I want you guys to check out if you haven't seen. We're going to start doing them every month, where we're going to kind of name at least 5+ movies that we want you guys to check out during whatever month we're moving into. And this made the list, and this was a late addition to that list because I was just doing more research, trying to find some niche titles, some things that maybe I could ask for screeners for. And this one just caught my attention based off the description. And yeah, it was really just that. I told you not to watch a trailer. So those snippets that you saw was all that I saw too. And yeah, man, I don't get excited for religious horror much, but this has just a wild concept. The idea of this being in 1860s America, we're talking Oregon Trail time era of people kind of, going across the western side, and they are on their way. They're a religious, like, church owning family. I guess there's a priest and whatever, but they're going to get an organ for their church. Just get a piano. They have to go all the way across the country to go get that. And they come across this sound. And it's in that where I was like, okay, I like this concept. I have not seen this concept before, which, as Luke said before, religious horror kind of falls into those same beats. Everybody wants it to be the Antichrist or taking place in a church or with a nun. This is not that at all. This is very Puritan kind of, hey, we're Bible thumping, everything we do, we live by the word of God. And I'm a little bit more into that. This feels a bit more like Robert Eggers on a budget in a lot of sense, but like you get a lot of that. You get a little bit of kind of those, not necessarily with the cult stuff, but I think with maybe the color palette a bit more, you get a little bit of that Wicker Man kind of stuff in here. And I just found myself really getting engaged in this movie. And I know I said it in my video, I was like, if this movie pulls a twist, and I love The Village, but if this pulled like a Village twist where it's like, it's nothing to do with like something, entity, demon, whatever it ends up being, then I'm going to be a little upset. I can report there is something in here that is well worth the wait. So I was really impressed with Thine Ears Shall Bleed.
Would you say there's something in the woods? No. This one I thought was when we talk about those kind of familiar beats that we see in religious horror, I think, sometimes they end up spending a little too much time on like the religious hierarchy almost, where it's like you have the
Yeah.
nuns, you have the priests, and you're dealing with that type of issue rather than just kind of really diving into it. And I like that comparison, the witch, Robert Eggers on a budget, because I think religious horror works best when you're more so less dealing with the church and having those religious elements within a family,
I was gonna say a family unit goes so much further for me with
yeah, and
this.
it's not like they're hammering home that religious hierarchy. It's like religion is a part of this, and we're really dealing with it. And this is about a pastor going to retrieve an organ to, the I guess the need to spread the word or widen your flock, as it will be here. And of course, the family falls in line of they are a religious family as well, and this really does deal with faith and how it can either be a great thing, or if you follow blindly it can be a very bad thing of what is out there. So I thought that was a rather interesting take here, because I don't think enough religious horror really tackles that idea of blindly following your faith, and that really falling into a negative. And I think they really do pull that off rather well here, because it does really leave you with a long-standing message. This really does have something to actually say to its audience. And I think they pulled it off rather well for being such a small film. And, this being a small film, this had the elements that I absolutely love, that I love seeing that, you're aware of your budget. This takes primarily outside. And they really use that natural lighting, and I think that looks beautiful. And then we really have a condensed cast here. We're not really opening up this world. This really does, again, take place in the woods with a particular family and maybe a couple other side characters as well. But it really just primarily, they knew their limitations. They wrote within those limitations, and they pull it off perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the strongest point in this film comes down to the cast and the writing. Again, like working within the confines of just keeping it very simple. They're not really going to show you anything that's like too big or too extravagant. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to watch the birth of the Antichrist or anything, as we said before. But what they do with it, what they do with sound, especially from a writing standpoint, I found to be extremely intriguing, and that is kind of the nugget that keeps you moving throughout this. That, and as well, the chemistry between the family here is very believable. I thought that Andrew Hovelson, who plays Ezekiel, was really good. Like, I thought that he played that charismatic father really well, and then watching him fall into his obsessions with trying to figure out what this sound is and if this is the word of God, and kind of watching it take over him, you really get to see him kind of jostle back and forth until he kind of goes into the full fanaticism of it. And then I also want to say that Hannah Campbell, she was excellent. She plays Sarah Thatcher, the mother. And I thought that she really did an excellent job of playing almost the foil to Ezekiel, and trying to keep him grounded, trying to stay in the situation of like, hey, listen, we're in the middle of the woods and like we're running out of food. It's great that you're compelled and you're writing sermons and stuff, because she's a very devout person, but she's also a realist. She's also trying to be there for her family. And I just thought that they played off of each other expertly. I thought they were great.
Yeah, and each person, again, this is a father, a mother, a son, and a daughter, and you kind of hit all those beats. Everyone plays a particular role in here in terms of their faith and what they want to believe, and almost this familial politics going up against religion, and how that affects everything, especially when we get this sound in the woods and this blind following your faith blindly. In how that really does affect the family. And I think I love the familiar element here, because we do, you see this breakdown. It just isn't primarily about religion. Yes, that is a big theme in here, but we're really dealing with that family element in here and how this is affecting everybody. I really love the performances there, because it really does feel authentic. And I think that's really what we're searching for here. Again, when we get into the bigger scope of a lot of religious horror, I think we kind of lose that connector piece with a lot of our characters sometimes, because unless you're really devout to the church and you're watching a horror film that's religious horror, sometimes it feels a little foreign to you, because you're not going to church regularly, you're not a nun, you're not a pastor, so you're not really feeling any of that. But here, yes, we have that religious theme, but once we're in the woods, you really just, it's father and son talking, it's mother and daughter talking. It's those elements where, while religion's a subject, we're really just dealing with the family element here. And especially when other characters are added and you see this kind of tension brought, I think it's rather well done with this condensed cast, because you really do feel it when you're having these interactions, especially with, we have another character, Mr. Booker, that does show up in the woods here. And as soon as he's dropped in, there's a source of hesitation, I guess you would say, in terms of what to believe and what not to believe. And I thought that was such a great aspect here in terms of that horror. And I will say that I think they do play off some of the horror elements rather well in here as well, especially as we kind of work toward our climax. The only necessarily negative, I would say, and it's not a big negative, they tend to cut away in terms of, I guess, where you could really take advantage of the scope of gore or any sort of thing like that. There's a lot of cutaways into the terms of that, which I don't know necessarily if they were going that route. Maybe it was a budget issue, I don't know, but they did leave themselves open for that, a bigger horror element to here. And I don't know necessarily they took advantage of it, but I think this film is so well done, it doesn't hurt the film too much. It's just a minor negative on my end.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think they do cut away at a couple of pivotal moments, but the thing that makes me feel like that may have been intentional was the fact that there's aftermath. It's like you see prosthetics, you see things like that afterwards, and you think like, okay, so if you can show us that, maybe it was more intentional not to show us the actual act itself. But I get what you're saying, because I think it would have, in a sense of just this being such a smaller film, had we actually gotten to see some of that play out, especially with the dynamics we're dealing with it being a family, it may have hit a lot harder and have been, I think they earned the fact that they could have shown that, and it would have been a bit more brutal. And I think that the elements that they do bring into this, although it's, admittedly the setup is unique, it's not ground that we haven't traveled before as far as horror or even religious horror goes. But I think that there's one particular scene that I will not spoil, but they introduce something that you see in damn near every, religious demon movie ever. And the fact that the way they bring it in, I thought was so subtle, because like I didn't think about it when it was first mentioned. And then when it actually shows up, it's like, okay, you know what? It's an easy grab, but I like the way that you did that. I appreciate that. And that's why I think like a lot of the magic of this film comes down to this script. And I think that there was a lot of thought put into it. And I think that, like Luke likes to say all the time, is that budgets breed creativity. And I think that they really worked double time to make sure that they kept things as creative as possible. There's another shot that we were talking about that deals with a little bit of time dilation. And, Luke and I were both just talking before this about how well executed that was and how it was presented and how fun it felt. And it just felt very seamless. It really does elevate this movie to being something that I quite enjoyed. It was kind of a shock to me. Again, the concept brings you in, but it's the product that makes you stay. And I have no problem sitting here and giving Thine Ears Shall Bleed a recommend, a very high recommend.
Yes, and I will give this a high recommend as well. This does offer something different in terms of religious horror and things that we've seen in the past at least 10 years, I think. We just don't get something this unique out there and really take advantage of the wide scope of religious horror and really what you can do to bring something new and offer something different. And like you said, I think the hats off to the writing. We're in the woods, we're with a condensed cast, but and sometimes religious horror can be a real slow starter. And I say, this one, it may feel slightly slow to some people at times, but I think with those interactions, with the dialogue choices, and just kind of the tension that they do build, I think if those moments are slow for you, I think they pass rather quickly, and then we move on to something fresh and new. I think this is one that when we talk in the conversation of religious horror for the next few years, I think Thine Ears Shall Bleed will easily be in that conversation, definitely between us and I think a lot more people as well. So this one, easy recommend, definitely high tier recommend for me. So this one is something that I would urge people to go out and check out and definitely support, because again, we don't get this uniqueness in a lot of religious horror. So definitely go out and check this one out.
And yeah, guys, if you want to check this one out, which I, again, highly recommend that you support this. This is a big recommend from both Luke and I. This is going to be available on digital PVOD on July 9th. Oh, couldn't spit it out. But yeah, July 9th, you'll be able to check this bad boy out. So by the time this goes up, it should be available tomorrow. So keep your eyes out for this. I would say, this is probably going to be very much worth the rental. I don't see this going up for being like super expensive by any means. So I think if you could shell out a few bucks and support these filmmakers, really get behind this film, I'd really love to see what they come back and do the next time around.
Yeah, I think this one is rather intriguing. Again, they brought something fresh and new here to religious horror. So even when they tackle different horror subgenres, I think this was Ben Bigelow. And also directed and also co-wrote with William Bigelow. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to bring to us next, making a more lukewarm subgenre to us feel a little hot and fresh here. I'm excited to see, hey, maybe they tackle a werewolf movie, who knows? But it'd be
cool.
it'd be rather interesting. So I think there's a lot of talent here. Again, a lot of uniqueness. So I am all in for their next project.
Absolutely. So we'll be keeping tabs on that. Let us know down below if you got a chance to check this out. If this has now piqued your interest, definitely should. But yeah, other than that, guys, we've got a lot of great stuff. Like we said up top, we do have a list going over a lot of the releases coming out this month. So keep an eye out for that, as well as a few other great videos out there just discussing all the big movies like Longlegs, Maxine. It's going to be a busy, busy month. So keep it right here on Splattercast. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up here for us. So until next time, I am Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, slash ass. 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 Splattercast, slash ass.